Yeah, sometimes I feel that when we think about it from a privacy angle, we are really missing what AI is. A lot of the times when we're talking about AI, we use the term so generally that we forget that we're actually talking about generative AI in the main, especially when we talk about privacy issues and current use cases.
Right.
And I think I said on a panel recently that I think we do it a bit of a disservice when we do that, right?
Welcome to my GRC POV. Before we begin, please note that all views, opinions, and commentary expressed by my guest and me are strictly our own personal perspectives. They do not represent or reflect the official positions of any employers, organizations, or affiliations we may have. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute professional advice. Always consult with qualified professionals for your specific GRC needs. Now let's dive in. Hello, everybody, and welcome to my GRC POV. My name is Monica Reagor, your host, and I'm super excited that you're joining me again for a bi-weekly talk with an expert in our GRC space, right? This is where we talk about real-world actions and theory and practical applications. We're not just talking about some of the frameworks and, giving you step by step, but we're going to have a real conversation around things that actually matter and what we can take back into our organizations that is actually helpful. So today I am so honored and so privileged to have this expert in the room because she's going to bring a ton of wealth of knowledge and information to us. And so before I do anything else, make sure that you follow the show on your favorite streaming platform. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to any of your individuals or your team, because, the more people know about it, the more the message get out there. So today we're going to talk to an individual that is an expert in their field. She is a digital compliance attorney, a strategist, and a global thought leader that is shaping the future of ethical technology. And that's important for us because in digital compliance, when it fails, then the team treats privacy and AI like it's paperwork, and that can't be it. And so I need everybody here on my GRC POV platform to welcome to our community, and that is Samantha Simms. Welcome, Samantha, to my GRC POV podcast. We're so happy to see you and to have you here.
Thank you, Monica. I'm really pleased to be here and very honored to be on your platform.
Oh, thank you so much. So we're just going to jump right in. So let's start with just more about you. You have a very specific focus around digital compliance. You're a strategist, you're a thought leader, and you have a strong passion about ethical technology. So tell us more about your current role or what you're offering to our community and your path around privacy, data compliance, and more.
Okay, well, right now I'm a digital compliance attorney, AI strategist. I do a lot of thought leadership. I do that I have a consultancy called the Information Collective that operates globally, primarily working across the UK, the US, Canada, and the Caribbean. I also have a law firm in New York, and it's called Noir Digital Law, heavily focused on the noir, helping Black tech executives in particular, or anyone creating tech that will support Black endeavors, to have a fair crack at the whip. And that cuts to the very heart of who I am and what I do. I've always said privacy is my profession, my passion, my purpose, and it's moved me on to even bigger purposes. So through the consultancy, I do quite a lot of the same work as we do through the law firm, which again is on a more global and more universal level, help to support the development of ethical tech or tech that's going to support society, right? I am all about seeing us have a fair, inclusive, equitable digital society. It's just important to me that we do not repeat some of the unfortunate circumstances that we've built into our current society.
Sure.
The unfairness that we see between class, that we see between socioeconomic standing, between race, between gender, between ability, between sexuality. You name it, we've got an ism, and that's a problem, and we're building we're building a digital society, and we're coding all of that into it. So I do a lot of my work through, as I said, the Information Collective, Noir Digital Law, and I provide thought leadership and coaching in the area of privacy and the wider digital compliance. And I do that through my brand, Samantha Simms ESQ. How did I get here? I used to say accidentally on purpose, right?
Okay.
But I now realize it was a lot more on purpose than accidentally. I first had a privacy issue the first time I looked into the right of privacy. So I'm big into carnival. I'm a Caribbean girl, so I'm big into carnival.
Sure.
And when I lived in London, when I was about 15 at the time, my picture of me in a carnival costume had been used to promote the next year's carnival in the second city of Birmingham. So all across Birmingham were these 5-foot posters of me, you know, and I felt it was just kind of intrusive. So at the time, I'd already decided I wanted to be a lawyer long before that, and I'd been working with another lawyer. And I said, I need to be compensated for this. They're using my image, and they didn't ask me. I didn't have the lexicon, right? I didn't know the terms, but something felt wrong. Yeah.
Right.
And he said, no, you have no right of privacy because you were in the public. What do you mean? Anyway, fast track a few years. I go to university. I study data protection.
Got it.
Again, interesting. I remember all the cases. But I was going to be this hotshot defamation lawyer, and I was going to work on Fleet Street, which is the area of all the newspapers at the time. But, you know, as time went by, I did a stint working in Paris. I was a researcher and a paralegal, had to do a lot around data protection there. And I was just learning and learning. And then I had the opportunity to work for the Office of Fair Trading, which is the UK version of the FTC, when I had graduated. And there I took cases, and some of the rebuttal I would have when I was carrying out investigations was, no, you can't have it because of data protection. I'm like, data protection who? I'm working for the government. I'm supposed to get it. and that's when I really learned. I started to cut my teeth on data protection proper. Moved on over time from government into the municipality, back to central government, then ended up working for a major law firm. We call it Magic Circle, similar to what we'd call White Shoe in the US. And then from there, moved on to heading up privacy programs for a very, very large, effectively data center company and telco. And then moving into business travel and heading up privacy for a very large travel company, global. Again, all my roles have been global.
Wow.
And I got this buzz one day. I was like, I can do this.
Yeah.
I can provide these services. I can have a bit more freedom, and I can learn more and expand my wings a bit. And that's how the Information Collective was born in 2016, started operating in 2017.
Wow.
And I haven't looked back, you know?
It sounds like you've had a really diverse footprint in the privacy space, and just like your own experience, as well as just in different industries and environments. And so you've talked about like Canada, US, UK, the Caribbean, right? And so my question is, what are some of the things that you believe that the leaders who are in this space, whose focus is privacy, or they do have association or byproduct of privacy, that they really need to tap into?
I think that's a really good question, because privacy is evolving right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's no longer the hot, sexy thing. You know, it's not the young girl it was for getting all the attention right now. AI's come and gone, bang, get out the way, old girl. So one thing I would say is I think we overcomplicate the issue. Because what we end up doing as leaders quite often is being so focused on the framework, the governance model, the policy, the procedures, the processes, that we forget that it's all about people. And fundamentally across the world, 8 billion people have the same needs. That's right, why the right to privacy is enshrined in pretty much every constitution.
Right.
So rather than thinking about the differences in the particular regimes, we first need to think about what's universal. And what is universal is the need for privacy.
Right.
And in the digital age, we have to think about that a little bit differently, right?
Mm.
But it's the same concept. The peeping Tom laws from years ago were to stop people looking through your window, looking through your letterbox, right? You still don't want to be online being monitored, surveyed, tracked without your knowledge. Then we think about the postal laws, or confidentiality. The fact that you're not supposed to tamper with post, yeah, is we've long understood that. So in the online world, I want to be able to communicate, whether that be via email or that be through some kind of messaging app, whether it be on some type of VoIP or something like that. I want to be able to communicate without having my messages intercepted.
Right.
And I want to be able to deliver the message securely. And I want to be able to receive a message that I know to be true without deep fakes, without someone pretending to be somebody else, right? So that's at the basis of it. No matter where you are, we're all plugging into this system that operates ubiquitously across the globe.
Yeah.
So I would say that there are more similarities than there are differences. Now, what we have as a layer on top is different approaches driven by different policy mandates.
Right.
You know, I've got a problem with Biden. He promised me a privacy law. That's why I opened the Noir digital law. But it never materialized because innovation through AI became the more important, the leading factor for the US, right? And we've seen it before. Let them move ahead, build what they want to build, have a very laissez-faire attitude. Then we'll scale it back. Then we'll have congressional hearings later on and ask what is an email type of thing, right?
Right. Right.
So, you know, you have that type of regime currently running in the US, very sectoral regime, as we know, at a federal level. State level operates quite somewhat differently in some ways, right? We have GDPR, this comprehensive level that is being scaled back, that today we're hearing from the current US administration that they really have a problem with it. I mean, we long knew that, right? We long knew this.
Right.
Canada, yeah, again, another fairly comprehensive regime, nice, you know, stable regime, you know, like the GDPR, quite focused on documentation, proving you're doing the right thing. And then the UK sitting somewhere in between, you know, trying to allow for innovation at the same time as separating from the ex-wife that was Europe, you know. And then the Caribbean sits in a very interesting space because although you can almost say that our origins are European, and when I say origins, I don't mean us, we're African by and large. I mean that our legislative system, our legal system, is of European origin because of who colonized the area, right? The region. And so we look to the UK in particular, especially sitting here in Jamaica where I'm sitting, look to the UK for our legislation. We still report, or not even report, but our highest court is actually the Privy Council, which is in the UK. But we sit in the US's backyard.
Yeah.
And we also, this is the Americas.
Right.
And that tension is felt here, but I don't think it's observed. I don't think many people realize it because we're so used to being a little kid between the bigger, mightier powers. And there's no say really. So by and large, we have a telecommunications system that backs up into the US. All the data
Wow.
goes into the US.
Right.
So when I talk about digital sovereignty, which is a big thing for me right now, you know, France can call for digital sovereignty. The UK can call for digital sovereignty. Germany, everyone else. They can free themselves of the clutches of the tech bros.
Right.
But here in the Caribbean, we barely have any buying power, right? We've been getting loans from the IMF for years. So what are we going to do? And even if we had digital sovereignty in that sense, where are we going to put a data center in a region that can be ravaged by hurricane?
Yeah.
Where
So
we
I do want
Mhm.
to just kind of piggyback on that because that's a really great topic. I think it is worth calling out that there is a bit of a disparity around the environments and regions that may have to support or may need to have support of some of these larger spaces or to your point, countries like the US and the UK. So what is your desire with the Caribbean being in such a small country that has a huge codependency on the UK and the US? And when it comes around data, and to your point that you shared earlier, is around data ownership and right to your data, right to your pictures, and being able to be free of that. What is your thoughts around that? Because now we're talking about ESG and that particular intersect with compliance and ethical technology. The Caribbean is essentially having to depend on the US for some of those, infrastructure around data. So by theory, by definition, many people in the Caribbean don't own their own data.
Yeah, I mean, that's the world over. And I talk about it from the Caribbean perspective because that's where I'm sitting today. And that's where I do a lot of work. But firstly, the bulk of tech is coming out of the west of America, right? It's coming. That's just what it is. That's what's happening. You know, a friend of mine made a really good observation recently. It's quite funny. You hear things from people not in our field that make you think, right? And she was like, everything we do is American owned. We don't own anything anymore. I said, what do you mean? And she said, I order on Amazon. I use Uber.
Right.
My mail is everything I do is on Google.
Right.
I now use ChatGPT. Her point was that everything she does is American owned. And if that can be felt by a fellow G8, G7, whatever you call them, superpower, right? That is being felt across the world, not just the Caribbean. So we, in smaller nations, not attacking the US, but we do have to stand up and think about this, especially as leaders. We need to think about democratization of digital spaces, democratization of digital infrastructure. So as leaders, what can we do? Well, should procurement start to include questions around sovereignty?
Mm.
Should procurement start to try to look for providers who are based elsewhere? And this is just, let's say the greenback collapses, let's say BRICS takes off.
Right.
Let's just say, I mean, might not happen, but that's a risk, right?
Right.
But we don't capture that. Let's say these wildfires completely take out stuff in, California, wherever.
Right.
Now I know they have data centers across the world, and I know they manage those risks. But we need to think about those risks from just that operational perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But as leaders, we need to be digging deeper than box ticking. And the point that I'm making right now is the days of the box ticking, are we compliant? Are they compliant? Vendor assurance,
Mm-hmm.
privacy leader, is that's over. We need to be supporting our organizations and our countries with ensuring that we are able to maintain digital trust for
Mm-hmm.
ourselves and for the people we support.
Yeah.
So that's something I think we really need to look at, and that starts with, for the countries, as I mentioned, data centers. But it's a really difficult situation right now. We've got ourselves into a quandary, and we can't all be like France. We can't all build a platform that can
Mm-hmm.
now host all of our government data, right?
Right.
We can't all do that. I know in Jamaica we have some government local government hosted,
Mm-hmm.
but not everywhere can achieve that. But it should be questions we start to ask, and so our providers should be able to start fragmenting their architecture a little bit again, to help us.
Yeah. So that brings up another question for me around like privacy ethics, right? Because one of the things that is important to any community, and we're talking global at this point, country, is when you're doing business with an organization and you're wanting to understand their reach, their market, where they are, services that they provide, supply chain risk management, all of those things. When when the purchasing department is making those purchasing or acquisition decisions, and they're diving into the DPIAs, the data privacy impact analysis, instead of just stopping there, and I'm guessing this is what you're saying, is still stopping there, which is as the checkbox, like, oh, we did it, but really started to dive deep into the actual impact that this particular service or service provider, or your own organization may have in a cultural sense, right? So it sounds to me that we need to really broaden our perspective around culture when it comes to privacy, and ownership, not just looking at, this is what my organization does, these are the list of data points that we collect, but it really, what is the impact, which kind of leads into AI, right? Which is probably the bigger challenge right now, because AI is great, it's moving fast, it makes life easier, but we're still trying to figure out this privacy thing, like how much reach does AI have? So for a digital compliance expert, a strategist, a thought leader around this landscape, what are your thoughts on AI and the privacy space? And it's great, but it is a huge risk to not just an individual, but to your point, to a whole country that is codependent on another country in this space.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel that when we think about it from a privacy angle, we are really missing
Mm-hmm.
what AI is. A lot of the times when we're talking about AI, we use the term so generally that we forget that we're actually talking about generative AI in the main, especially when we talk about privacy issues and current
Sure.
use cases.
Right.
And I think I said on a panel recently that I think we do it a bit of a disservice when we do that, right? What I would say is, again, I like to use ESG frameworks when I'm looking at AI governance. And not just ESG, I actually have developed an AI governance framework. The privacy issues come up from automated decision making, by and large, right?
Right.
And, I was speaking to, again, a friend, I talk to friends a lot. We're talking about something recently and the fact that the UK market has contracted and we've seen high unemployment. But people are also finding that no one is responding to them. That's what I'm hearing when they are applying for roles. And in fact, I spoke to two friends this week who said it's the AI tool. The AI tools are scanning the CVs. And if you're not meeting if you're not hitting the buzzword,
Right.
or you're not hitting the profile, then you're not making it through, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that comes down to the algorithm and algorithmic bias. And in the age of LinkedIn as well, where actually before you even apply, you've got this whole body of information that if you apply through LinkedIn, who knows what the algorithm is? Who knows what the API transfers over? So in terms of privacy, I think it's not just about maintaining privacy and confidentiality. It's about the discrimination that can happen as a result of the algorithmic bias. And who holds the algorithm has the power. Today, it's platform power and algorithmic power, right?
Yeah.
And that's where my work really sits. I work at the intersection of innovation, information rights, and power, And so from a pure privacy lens, we do need to focus around that automated decision making and making sure it's fair and making sure we have human oversight.
Yeah.
Making sure we're accountable to the individuals.
Yeah.
We're able to explain what is happening with their data. There is transparency because right now, through that LinkedIn solution, I don't think anyone knows what's going on.
Right. We don't know like specifically where every bit of data is being transferred, is it being shared, is part of marketing,
What's
a
the
lot of those things.
profile?
Yeah.
Because I know LinkedIn's profiling me because over the last, especially since since I'm here, but I'd say over the last 2 to 3 years, the viewership of my LinkedIn content has changed. And quite often, of the 3,000, 4,000 followers I have, I somehow only have Black people engage with my content. Now that's weird because the bulk of people I know on LinkedIn are not Black. The bulk of people I know on LinkedIn happen to be in my industry. So we don't know what's happening. And I think the elements of the framework in AI governance are what we need to look into, not just focusing on privacy, but focusing on the privacy impact of these issues. But the wider pillars need to be looked at. And that's what I would say when it comes to looking at the intersection of privacy and AI.
Yeah. And and you bring up so many great nuggets. And so, and I know we're getting close to wrapping up. My question, what is your suggestion to people like myself who are trying to get the senior leadership buy-in to really open up their minds around understanding the decision power, understanding the privacy as a global collective, and understanding part of the accountability that they will hold.
Yeah.
What are some of your conversations with individuals in C-suite spaces around really maturing their outlook around the power of privacy and accountability?
Here's the first thing that I've noticed. Across the board, wherever I am, the executives are pretty much plugged into the same materials, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're all reading, I don't know, Forbes or news as we know it, comes in from very limited streams.
Mm-hmm.
They're all watching the BBC, what's it called? MSNBC,
Yep.
CNN,
CNN. Yep.
Fox, or Al Jazeera, right?
Yeah.
They're all plugged into the same spaces. So they're pretty much hearing the same rhetoric. And what I would say is what we're fighting, and I don't like to say fight, but we have to keep that in mind as professionals, because that's what's actually guiding much of their decision making when it comes to our area.
Yeah.
You can't go 5 minutes on news without hearing AI. Yeah.
Right.
So this much more powerful medium is providing the information to them. And then on top of it, they have their own appetite. So what do I hear? I hear, well, this is not important. This is not important. It's slowing down innovation.
Mm-hmm.
It's expensive. We have 2030 digital transformation plans.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't seize this now, we will not be ahead of the curve. You know, we don't like to admit it, but we're in a global recession. So businesses are trying to stay the course. And not just businesses, even if you're in public sector.
Yep. Do more with less is
Exactly, right?
the focus, right? Yeah.
And we're at the frontier of a new digital era. It sounds hyperbole and dramatic, but it's the truth. In 2030, we will be using services in a very different way to the way that we knew in 2020. We have already seen that. When we went into COVID, hardly anybody was online, right? Interacting online in this way, right? Now, it's standard. It's very
Absolutely.
standard.
My life has shifted. I've been in tech, cybersecurity for years. They're like, oh, that will never happen. We can write up a DRP, a disaster recovery plan. One of the things it says is, what would you do if there's a pandemic? And oftentimes we're like, oh, it hasn't had a pandemic in 100 years. And sure enough, we have one in
There we
2020.
go.
So now it does exist. So you can't make an assumption. But to your point, it's really how quickly we've moved from just being more in person to now online to now I think there's a fight between in person and online now, right?
The new luxury, right? The new luxury is in person. So if we think about where we're at today, right?
Yeah.
That's only going to change even more. We're just accelerating in our use of technology. And we have to remember that what's being handed out to us right now is just an eye-opener into where we're going. Because a lot of the plans are around quantum computing, etc. So I say all this because when communicating with leaders, you need to be a leader. And that's why I have a coaching program called How to DPO Like a Boss. I've developed a framework that really ensures that we're speaking the language of the business or the organization. We are aligned, that we completely understand the dynamics. We're able to communicate directly, understanding the motivations of the C-suite and the functions that they are heading up. And I think that's where we go wrong as privacy professionals and wider GRC professionals. Risk does it a bit better, but we often present risks that are unlikely to materialize. If I'm in business, to be honest with you, I don't care about a fine. That's why I got insurance, right?
Right.
Am I going to worry about the fine over the ability to innovate, maintain this business?
Mm.
I tell a lot of my coachees, don't overcomplicate it, because when you overcomplicate the work you are doing and complicate your message, it will get lost. If there is no data, there's no you, there's no role. So you have to be able to support those leaders in making the decisions. And remember that not everybody sits there reading about this area like we do. They don't have the love for it like we do. So explaining and aligning your messages with what is important to the business, that strategic insight, is extremely important. Yes, we have to have the policies, the procedures, and everything in place. But beyond that, you need to show that you are working with the organization.
Yeah.
And that's what they want to, what they want to hear and see. Because at the end of it, they have the decision-making authority. We don't. And it's our duty to empower them with the information they need to make the right decision. And they can only do that if they trust that we understand the mission.
Yeah, that's so good. That is so, so good. And a great way to close out our talk today. Like, it's important that we understand what the business leaders need so they can make the appropriate decision for the organization, right? And so we have to be more of a strategist instead of being an analyst, right? We have to be the individuals in the room saying, yes, this is the 10 things that we have to meet, but here's how it impacts the business. And then here's the potential. I had a previous guest and they talked about risk as a revenue driver.
Absolutely.
So that's a different perspective. Not just let's mitigate the risk, but it also by mitigating is profitable for the company. And so to your point, if by us understanding the mission that our leaders are trying to accomplish or understanding the business objective, then one is a win for us. Two is a win for the organization. Three, it really shows our credibility and it provides longevity with that relationship or that partnership with your organization as well. And so, Samantha, it has been fantastic speaking to you. The level of depth that you bring to data privacy is phenomenal. And the fact that you're able to really tap into the various demographics, location, environments, culturally, and really being a thought leader around the broader spectrum of ethics, and really highlighting some of the concerns around AI. This is probably the fastest I've seen technology go. I remember like 20 years ago when the iPhone came out, people were still trying to figure it out, but this is just taking off like wildfire. But tell everybody before we go where they can connect with you, where they can find you, so they can get more information about DPOing like a boss.
Yeah, so you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Samantha Simms, DPO Doctor. Right now I'm putting out a lot on Substack. I'm really enjoying it. So that's a space. I think I'm sims.esq. And also you can connect with me on Samantha Simms or www. if we still say that, SamanthaSimmsESQ.com. And there you'll find the links to everywhere where I am present. So the Information Collective, Noir Digital Law, Women of the Caribbean in AI Governance, and also my new baby, which is the live streaming app, social media app. I'm a strategic advisor for. It's founded by 3 Black women, the first social media app to be founded by 3 Black women. It's called It's Bio, and we're in beta, testing it out. It's so exciting.
Love it.
And that's where I can be found, in any of those spaces.
Listen, everybody, you guys know what we do. We do not come here with just frameworks and ideas. We come here with practical execution. We come here with a greater, broader perspective and a more mature look into the GRC space, regardless if it's ESG or healthcare. Privacy is in everything that we do. It touches absolutely everything. So I am so excited and so grateful, Samantha, to have you with us. So listen, to my community, if this episode absolutely helped you, make sure you follow My GRC POV on your favorite streaming platform. Share with your privacy team, share with your product partners, share with your vendors. But most of all, join the community at www.mygrc.com. And until next time, everybody, make sure you own the risk and execute with intent. Bye now.
Thanks for listening to My GRC POV. Remember, all opinions expressed today are personal views only and don't reflect any organizational positions. Until next time, stay compliant and keep questioning.